shock. And then, seconds later, another followed. Imagine the ground violently shaking beneath you. Not once, but twice, all within a span of 39 seconds. That's exactly what happened on the 24th of June in Venezuela. The first magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck near San Felipe. Before people could even understand what had happened, a second and even more powerful magnitude 7.5 earthquake struck near Yumare. Not an aftershock, but a second major earthquake. This is called Seismic doublet, one of the rarest types of major earthquake sequences ever recorded. The earthquakes left entire communities in ruins, killing more than 1,900 people and injuring over 10,000. These twin earthquakes have raised questions that go beyond Venezuela's borders. Just 2 weeks before this, the Philippines was hit by an earthquake with a magnitude of 7.8. 2 days after Venezuela's twin earthquakes, Afghanistan was rocked by a 6.1 magnitude earthquake. And this week, on the 29th of June, a 5.5 magnitude earthquake rattled Yibin City in China's Sichuan province. Earthquakes have shaped our planet for millions of years. They arrive without warning and change the course of thousands of lives. Every year, the Earth records hundreds of thousands of tremors, out of which some become part of history, and the Venezuelan doublet is one such event. The Earth never stops moving. Some scientists say the number of large earthquakes has remained relatively stable over the long term. Others point out that clusters of major quakes can create the impression that the planet is becoming more unstable. So, are we witnessing a new pattern? Or is this simply a series of unrelated disasters? On WION Wide Angle this week, we take a closer look at the devastating earthquake in Venezuela. What made it so unusual? Are major earthquakes becoming more frequent? And is there a hidden cycle behind some of the world's biggest seismic events? The 24th of June began like any other day in Venezuela. It was a national holiday commemorating the 1821 Battle of Carabobo. With families at home, many attending public events and others enjoying the day off. But just after 6 p.m. local time, the ground began to shake. A magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck near San Felipe, the capital of Yumare state. It felt like the main earthquake, but it was only the beginning. Just 39 seconds later, a second, even more powerful, magnitude 7.5 earthquake ruptured about 23 kilometers southeast of Yumare. The two powerful tremors came so close together that many people could not tell where one ended and the other began. The twin quakes sent shockwaves across northern Venezuela. They were felt far beyond the epicenter, including in the capital, Caracas. Buildings swayed, people rushed into the streets, and emergency crews were deployed. As night fell, rescuers raced against time to search through collapsed buildings, while authorities declared a state of emergency in the hardest hit areas. It is one of the strongest seismic events to hit Venezuela in more than a century. Survivors in Caracas recalled the harrowing moments when the earthquakes struck. For residents across the capital, the experience was one of sheer terror, as buildings swayed violently during the quakes.
Tuve un aviso del celular, una alarma.
I first received an earthquake early warning alert on my phone, but it only gave me about 5 seconds advance notice. By the time I stood up, it had already started. The shaking lasted maybe 14 or 15 seconds, but to us it felt like 3 hours because it was so intense. The building was swaying, shaking very badly.
At approximately 6 p.m., I was at home and around the area when we felt a very loud noise. Suddenly, everything started moving from one side to another. It was a very, very intense movement. We had never experienced anything like that. The walls started cracking. Things started falling to the floor. The walls, the structure. It was horrible. If one has never experienced a moment like that, no, you'll never know.
Look at these visuals. A Jordanian search and rescue team pulled a toddler alive from debris 6 days after the child was trapped. Medical staff provided treatment following the rescue. In another incident, a mother and her 18-year-old baby were rescued from beneath the rubble of a collapsed building 32 hours after the earthquake. Rescuers in La Guaira pulled a 21-year-old man alive from the rubble 5 days after the quake. Such was the impact. Aaron Levy Cantillo was carried on a stretcher by emergency workers as crowds gathered and cheered at the scene before he was taken to an ambulance. Speaking after his rescue, Cantillo thanked God and described the rescuers who reached him as angels.
Yo no soy nadie, soy un simple chico que pasó 5 días debajo de un edificio.
I'm a nobody. I'm just a young man who spent 5 days trapped beneath a building. But I'm here today and I'm alive thanks to my God. He is the only one who got me out of there and sent his angels. Who are his angels? The people who worked tirelessly on my rescue, the people who cared about how I was doing, the people who were there when I came out, who shouted my name when they saw me emerge. As far as I know, I was just informed that I was the only person in that building who was found alive.
Al verme salir, que hasta donde tengo entendido me acaban de informar que era la única persona de ese edificio que estaba con vida.
And it isn't just human beings who are being rescued. Rescuers also saved the voiceless who were stuck in the rubble. 4 days after the quake, a puppy was saved. Video showed rescuers in a confined space calling out as the puppy barked before bringing the animal out. The devastating quakes have inflicted deep psychological trauma on the country's people, leaving many too fearful of aftershocks to return home. Numerous people have been forced to leave their homes due to damage or fear. In Caracas, displaced people said they would rather live in temporary tents on the streets than go back home.
It was truly terrifying at the time, so much so that whenever an aftershock occurs and I feel the tremor, the scenes of the earthquake replay vividly in my mind.
The earthquake has left huge psychic trauma to many people because it was so intense. At that time, buildings were shaking strongly. Total chaos everywhere. Everybody was running, including children. Some people even fell down on stairs.
In order to provide medical and psychological aid, temporary service points were set up by local medical schools. Students engaged children with interactive activities, while local physicians offered psychological support to the community.
The majority of people now suffer from PTSD. This is because they just went through the earthquake and their body has remained in high alert.
Anguish and anger gripped the coastal state of La Guaira as families of earthquake victims blocked rescue machinery, demanded access to disaster sites. All that has been left in this trail of destruction is hope.
That was the house belonging to my daughter and my son-in-law. They weren't there when the earthquake struck, but sadly, my son-in-law's mother, my ex-wife, and my oldest grandson were there. Since that day, since the tragedy, we haven't been able to locate their bodies. I see that rescue efforts are underway, and we'll be here waiting.
And scenes of desperation like these can be seen across the affected areas. Residents blocked a truck carrying heavy equipment to demand that the equipment be used in that area, where they were hoping for assistance to continue the search and rescue of victims.
I pulled my daughter out from the middle. They will not move until they get her out of there. I have nothing to lose. They can kill me if they want.
According to the World Health Organization, Venezuela's healthcare system is under significant strain, with some hospitals damaged and others missing staff after the deadly twin earthquakes. At least 3 healthcare centers are critically damaged and 6 others are damaged or only partially functional. Several healthcare workers specialized in maternity care in La Guaira also remain missing.
The shelters and the displaced population also face an elevated health risk due to the low pre-event vaccination coverage and the currently limited access to vaccines. The temporary shelters have been established, including a baseball stadium in La Guaira and 5 sites in Caracas. But to give a bit more, just an example of a situation, the missing healthcare workers create a gap too. Several healthcare workers in La Guaira remain missing, including the official responsibles for the entire maternal care pathway in the area. That means there's immediately created a critical gap in obstetric care.
Search and rescue teams from around the world arrived in Venezuela to assist the country's efforts to save people trapped in rubble. Dozens of countries also pledged to send aid of some kind, with many of them providing emergency workers. India has launched Operation Amistad, a humanitarian assistance and disaster relief mission in response to the devastating earthquake. As part of the operation, 2 Indian Air Force C-17 Globemaster aircraft departed for Venezuela on the morning of the 26th of June, carrying humanitarian relief supplies and a 41-member rescue team to assist the ongoing relief and rescue efforts. The relief consignment included a self-reliant Indian medical task force, an Indian Army field hospital unit with Hadar pallets and medicines, 30 tons of relief supplies, 6 tons of medicines and medical equipment, and 2 Bisham Cube portable hospitals. The State Department has earmarked $150 million for relief efforts that will go to non-profits and the United Nations. Search and rescue teams from Virginia, Los Angeles, and Miami-Dade County have also arrived in Venezuela. China sent emergency humanitarian aid and has also decided to offer additional aid to Venezuela for post-quake relief and reconstruction. When a major earthquake strikes, it often feels like the planet is becoming more unstable. The U.S. Geological Survey recorded 93 earthquakes of magnitude 4.5 or stronger worldwide between June 19 and June 26, nearly 100 earthquakes in a week. Are earthquakes actually increasing? The question has troubled scientists for decades. The U.S. Geological Survey says the Earth experiences around 20,000 earthquakes every year, an average of more than 50 every single day. Most are too small to be felt, but when several powerful earthquakes strike within a short span of time, it can create the impression that the planet has entered a period of heightened seismic activity. While there is no conclusive evidence that major earthquakes are increasing globally, scientists also caution that the Earth does go through periods when large quakes appear to cluster. And that makes every major earthquake impossible to ignore, because no one can predict when or where the next devastating tremor will strike, and the recent months have been a stark reminder of that. Powerful earthquakes have rocked one region after another. Here's a look at some of the quakes the world has witnessed recently. At around 7:37 a.m. local time on the 8th of June, a powerful earthquake of magnitude 7.8 struck the southern coast of the Philippines, the epicenter, the coast of Sarangani province near the island of Mindanao. The earthquake occurred at a depth of around 33 kilometers beneath the sea floor. Although its epicenter was offshore, it rocked several parts of the southern Philippines. The initial earthquake was followed by a strong aftershock measuring 6.1 in magnitude. In the hours that followed, more than 100 aftershocks were recorded, keeping many residents on edge and complicating emergency response operations. At least 68 people lost their lives and several others were left injured. A 5.5 magnitude earthquake rattled Yibin city in southwest China's Sichuan province on the 29th of June, causing minor structural damage and prompting emergency assessments. The quake struck at 0:12 on Monday, with its epicenter located in Gaoshan County at a depth of 6 kilometers, according to the China Earthquake Networks Center. Another earthquake of magnitude 6.3 jolted Haishi Prefecture in China's Qinghai on the 16th of June. The quake struck at a depth of 10 kilometers. Firefighters and armed police force in northwest China's Qinghai province quickly mobilized for rescue, and one trapped person was rescued. An earthquake of magnitude 6.9 struck Japan's northeast coast on the 25th of June. No tsunami warning was issued and no injuries were immediately reported. The epicenter of the quake, which was about 50 kilometers deep, was off the coast of Iwate Prefecture. Nearly 95% of all earthquakes occur along the boundaries where the Earth's tectonic plates interact. These major geological faults and volcanic zones are categorized into three primary global seismic belts. The first and most violent is the Pacific Ring of Fire, a horseshoe stretching from Chile and California up through Alaska down into Japan, the Philippines and Indonesia. This single belt is responsible for roughly 80% of the world's largest earthquakes and volcanoes. The second is the Alpide Belt, running from Indonesia through the Himalayas, Iran, Turkey, all the way to the Mediterranean. It is less active than the Pacific Belt, but is responsible for nearly 17% of the world's biggest quakes. This seismic belt follows the boundaries of plates that are spreading apart. It stretches along the floor of the entire Atlantic Ocean from north to south. Most of this ridge is deep underwater, but where it reaches the surface, such as in Iceland, it experiences frequent earthquakes and volcanic activity. Venezuela sits directly on the highly active boundary where the Caribbean and South American tectonic plates collide. While the Mid-Atlantic Ridge is not directly in Venezuela, it is part of the broader interconnected global tectonic system that affects the region. Let's look at some of the world's major earthquake zones according to their seismicity. While the most notable seismic zones are found on Alaska's central coast, another zone stretches along the coast from British Columbia to the Baja California Peninsula. As we move towards South America, the most active zones here stretch along the continent's Pacific border, and another from the Caribbean coast of Colombia and Venezuela. Asia is a hotbed of earthquake activity. It has witnessed major historical quakes like the Kamchatka Peninsula quake in 1952 that occurred in Russia's Far East, and the Tibet quake in 1950. Central Asia is also included in one of the world's major earthquake zones. Northern Europe is largely free of major earthquake zones, although the risk of seismic activity increases as we move southeast towards Turkey and along the Mediterranean coast. Africa has far fewer earthquake zones than any other continent, with little to no activity across much of the Sahara and the central part of the continent. While the continent of Australia has low to moderate risk of quakes overall, its smaller neighboring island is one of the world's earthquake hotspots, like the Wairarapa quake in 1855. Let's tell you about the Indian subcontinent now. The Indian subcontinent sits on a plate that is relentlessly colliding with Eurasia at the rate of about 5 centimeters per year. India is divided into 4 seismic zones. Starting from Zone 2, which is considered the least active, to Zone 5, which is considered the most dangerous. Zone 5 covers Kashmir region, the northeast, and parts of Bihar and Gujarat. The capital of the country, New Delhi, sits in Zone 4, which is categorized as a high damage risk zone. That's one step below the most severe classification. Do you know why? It is because Delhi lies close to active fault systems, including the Yamuna River Fault and the Sona Fault, alongside the broader Himalayan seismic belt. What if these earthquakes are not as random as they seem? It is a question that has fascinated scientists for more than a century. Does the Earth follow a cycle, one that we have yet to fully understand? Some of the world's largest faults appear to produce major earthquakes at irregular intervals, as tectonic stress slowly builds and is suddenly released. But here is where the mystery deepens. There is no global clock or formula that can tell us when the next great earthquake will strike. Yet scientists have long observed something intriguing. Large earthquakes sometimes appear to come in clusters, followed by long periods of relative quiet. Perhaps the most disturbing fact is that the Earth gives us no reliable warning. The earthquake in Venezuela is a reminder that nature's greatest forces arrive without any indication. The stress beneath our feet can build silently for decades before it is released in a matter of seconds. And when tragedy strikes, entire cities' landscapes can change forever.